Okay, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good evening. Very happy to connect. It's actually my first time giving an English talk online. Very happy to see a lot of friends from many different places, from different time zones. Aloha. And yeah, today I would like to share with you about my thoughts and some ideas about farming, the relevance of farming in the era of COVID. So the title is Farming for People's Power in the COVID Era. Actually, do you know that there is another virus other than the coronavirus that is really prevalent right now? Like we know that the COVID is the one causing pandemic, but there's another even worse virus that people don't really mention about. Okay, so it's called the fear virus. So this is a coronavirus disease, but I think the worst virus is the coronavirus fear. So of course the COVID itself is doing damage, but I personally believe that the fear of the virus is doing even more damage. So I think you would agree that most of us are feeling this way, very fearful, afraid of the virus, and whether I will be contracted of the virus or whether I can unknowingly spread the virus. Or we are also fearful about the current conditions of the society, about all the regulations and rules and restrictions that are being imposed. And all those things are making us feel quite powerless. You don't really, it's very difficult to understand what is going on. I also tried to do some research, but there are so many different theories, ideas, and views on what is going on, ranging from very radical to very conservative. Like some people believe that virus itself was created, and some people will think that it is a natural thing that we are doing very good to suppress. So there is a very big spectrum of ideas of what's going on. But in fact, finding the real truth is very, very difficult. So people would be feeling more powerless about what is going on. They can't really understand, like all the information that's available is like Google and YouTube and things like that. And a lot of the informations are not really out there. It's very difficult to do the right study to recognize what is going on. And then we would have to take action based on our worldview. And so all these things are very difficult, and you are you feel that you don't know what's going on, and you're afraid of all the things that are coming to you, things that are being imposed. All the while you are asked to be, isolated. Wear a mask when you are, meeting other people, or if you are suspected, then you are isolated for 2 weeks. So all these kind of things are creating a great deal of stress for us. And I think that is even more dangerous than the virus itself. And of course, the virus will hit the poor people first and more harshly. So while some of the big businesses, they just continue their operation, the poor people, the small businesses, the medium-sized enterprises, they are suffering the most. So even though we might not be easily able to arrive at a conclusion of what is going on, I think we can quite easily agree on the actual trends that is happening right now, and that is that more control is being imposed, like the governmental control is getting stronger, and the corporations are gaining more profit. The big ones get bigger, the small ones get smaller. The weaker ones are being the losers in the game. So I think this control and cooperation, these two trends are what everybody can actually agree upon that is going on. You might not have an agreement on how the COVID originated, or whether this is conspiracy, or whether all these regulations are good. But I think we can all agree that the trend that is real is that the control is getting stronger and the corporations are taking advantage of the situation. So even if you think that the virus is a natural occurrence, has nothing to do with conspiracy, doesn't have to do with any kind of evil intentions, I still think you would agree that it is a good question to ask. Good question to ask. Would those people wouldn't those people try to make use of this situation? Even though they didn't create it, they would see it as an opportunity that they can exploit. So as long as there are some powerful and rich people that will try to use the situation, we have to be very wary about that. So I think that's the least common recognition that we can arrive at, even though I understand that there's a very wide range of views on the COVID itself. So I thought this was very interesting. I was in the shopping mall one day, and then, right now everything has a direction, a spot to stand, and everything. On the top it says "New days, new ways." Like as soon as I saw this, this is trying to brainwash the people, program us. New days are coming, and we have to follow the new ways. It's not just about simply walking on the right side. It's telling the people to get ready for new days where the corporate and the control will be unprecedented. So while we are uncertain and fearful and very afraid of all the things that are coming on, all sorts of crises can fall upon us. Of course, the greatest one would be food crisis, and of course, energy, communication, transportation, even human rights, as the government will really have they think they have the right reason now to crack down upon the people's rights. And a lot of basic human rights are being ignored right now. And are you ready for like a financial crisis or even security crisis when the order will be undermined? Are you ready for those kind of things? So all these crises that may befall, I think we have to be ready. And the most important is about, of course, the food crisis. And in that respect, I would like to talk about farming. But before I start to talk about what kind of farming is adequate for a crisis situation, like what is the best survival farming, we have to think about what's the farming that we have in our hands right now. So what is the farming that we have? It is a farming that has been corrupted, which means that the current form of conventional farming, it is not a tool to empower you. It is not a tool that can get you through the crisis, but it is actually a tool that can deprive you, actually destroy you. So the corruption of farming, traditionally farming was not like this, but there has been a serious corruption. A few of them I have listed here. farming is now totally chemical dependent. Without chemical fertilizers, most farmers, they cannot produce, and they believe that it's impossible to produce without fertilizers. They forget that we've been farming without fertilizer for like 10,000 years. And then we are addicted to machine and fuel. And what if a situation arrives that you are not able to access or utilize any machine, and the parts are not available and the fuels are cut off? What are you going to do? At least I think we should be able to do some kind of manual labor, like using hand tools. We should at least be acquainted with it, so that when the machines cannot serve us, I mean, machines are good. They're very efficient, effective, and I use it from time to time, but I just want to be careful that we don't become too much dependent upon it. Because it's an industry. The machine is an industry, fuel is an industry, chemical fertilizer, pesticide, they're all industry, and they are after profit. They are not, that's their primary objective. And what kind of situation you're in, it's not for them to consider. And another big corruption is that our people's knowledge has been all erased. Traditional farming, it's like it's gone. I visited even the most remote villages in so-called underdeveloped countries. They're all now using chemicals. They buy the seeds from multinationals and they spray pesticide all over. And they're using machines, of course. And all the cost is rising, but they are made to believe that it is a path to productivity, it is a path to modernization, that it is the more developed model that they should follow. And all the traditional knowledge will be seen as unscientific, unhygienic, inefficient, you know, those things that just have to be eradicated along with all the superstitions. That's the kind of view that has been imposed upon the people, so that they voluntarily give up their knowledge and follow the Western modern knowledge. And what happens is that they fall into a debt trap, because all this new method of farming costs a lot. You have to buy everything, the seeds, the chemicals, the machines, the fuel, it's all money. And then if you want to cut it off, you cannot, because once your soil is addicted to chemicals, you have to keep applying it, and keep applying it in an increasing manner, or else your productivity will go down. The only way is to heal the soil to its natural state, which takes years to do. So effectively, you fall into a trap. So you have to, it's very difficult to get out of the trap. If you look at Wikipedia, the number of suicides in India, the number of farmer suicides in India, it is so serious that it has a separate item for that topic. During last 30 years, 300,000 they have taken their lives, and there could be many causes, but a big serious cause would be the debt, and all that debt has been gained after, you know, modernization of agriculture, introducing of GMOs, chemicals. And farming is supposed to be a healer. So it is something that should be healing the environment, something that you're doing good for the environment. You're helping the plants, animals, you're growing life. But farming has become a killer. It just destroys everything, degrades soil, and then we contaminate the environment. We poison the insects, we poison the water, and that is a serious corruption. And all the food we produce now, a lot of the food is not even food, it is poison, because they come out from poisoned soil. People have poisoned the soil, so the soil can only produce poisoned food. So why are people so sick nowadays? It's very, very hard to find a healthy person sick somewhere. All these diseases that we never heard of, they are just skyrocketing. And then the scientists and doctors come in and try to find the cause, but they are always taking a reductionist approach. They don't really see the whole system. The whole world that we are living in is being poisoned, and that's why there's so much disease. And the farming community where, traditionally you would work together, you would form groups, co-ops, you would form teams, and you would help each other and farm. They have all been destroyed, and farmers are now business people. So they are just into competition. So these are some of the aspects of farming that I would say are corruption. This is a picture I took in the Philippines. This is the poorest of the poor regions. If you look at the soil, it's just like desert. The tropical sun is coming down and people are trying to grow here. They don't do it traditionally. It's all about chemicals. The crops are very sick, diseased, and they're using seeds from the multinationals. And I always like to visit the kitchen and the toilet whenever I go to these villages. If you look at the kitchen, you can see that they are burning wood and turning them into ash. So a useful technology that they can use is using wood, turning it into biochar and using the heat created, so that after using the fuel, you have biochar instead of ash. Those kind of knowledges are good. And this is a toilet. And toilet is one of my most important areas of interest, because so they are farming where they have to buy chemical fertilizers, okay? So they need the fertilizer to put the nutrients in the soil, but they have no idea that human manure can be used as fertilizer. And I think that's very bad. This is a big resource. Like the whole Asian countries, they've been using human manure, human urine. They've been using it for thousands of years, which was the key to soil fertility. But now all these scientific hygienic methods of agriculture comes in, and all those are forgotten. Even in the poorest region, I asked the people, and they cannot imagine of using that thing. They just cannot touch that thing. Like pesticides. And you can see the erosion that is happening. This is like, it used to be a tropical jungle where the huge trees and huge animals would have been living here. But when the people come in, they first log the whole area. So they sell the trees, they sell the timber, and then they start a plantation farming. They've been growing coffee for 30 years here. And when the soil is too poisoned to grow anything, they just leave. And then the whole landscape is open to erosion like this. This is the kind of farming that we are doing. So even though you're a farmer, you're not able to survive a crisis situation if your knowledge is all about this. And all the people drink a lot of Coke, a lot of sugar water. Yeah, very nice people, but very sad to see the situation they are in. But it's not their situation alone. I think the situation is pretty much same for all the people in the world. So instead of that kind of corrupted farming, what is the farming that we can do? So this is my suggestion for farming for the people. Never buy, don't rely. I sort of like the rhyme, so I thought this can be like a maxim for our new world. I mean, farming of the new days, new days. So never buy, don't rely. Self-reliance is very important. Zero cost. Like your farming should not cost you any money. You don't buy fertilizer, you don't buy pesticide, you don't buy seeds. You just make everything yourself, be self-sufficient. You collect your own seeds, and you make your own fertilizer, and you brew your own microbes. Actually, you can go zero cost, but the quality of farming will be even better. The quality of your produce will be better. Okay, you utilize resources to the last drop. This is very important. We are living in an age of abundance where waste is like very common. We just waste a lot of things. You know, 1/3 of the global food production just goes to waste. We produce food and we just waste it. While on the certain parts of the planet, people are starving to death. Certain parts of the planet, we just throw them into the bin. So we are not used to the culture of, you know, using the last drop, this kind of very, very efficient use of resources. But this is something that we have to do and we have to learn for the new days. And I strongly suggest you choose the crops that are easy to grow and that have high energy. So don't try to grow something super difficult, you know. Grow something that grows like weed and your farming will be easy. People choose something so difficult and then they think farming is difficult because the pests come in, the diseases come in. But if you choose something easy, farming becomes easy. This is very important. Choose something easy to grow, something that grows like a weed. And make sure the work is easy for you. Don't make it complicated. You know, there's a lot of knowledge that actually confuses the farmer and makes the process very, very complicated. Sort of, I think there's some kind of bad intention on the part of the teachers. They want to look like the gurus, and they want to make the process so difficult that it is difficult to learn. And then you have to pay to learn all the time. And you learn for 10 years and you find out that you still haven't learned it. That kind of knowledge is useless. I mean, I don't like it. I don't like those guru people. I think knowledge should be easy. And I will go through the knowledge that I suggest. I only took about 2 things, and it is so easy that you will not even call me a teacher. Maybe that's not good. Okay, so the work has to be easy. And lastly, you integrate production, processing, and preservation. So you don't just grow food, you are able to process it, preserve it. You know, you can take care of all the links, the chain reactions. Okay, these are the 2 things that I will talk about. And after I finish explaining, you will understand that they are actually not even 2, but they're the same thing. Okay, these are the laws. They are the laws. You know, law means there's no exception, and you have to follow it. And it is not something of my invention or creation. It is something that I just explained. It exists. It just exists. Okay, 1 is cycle of nutrients, and 2 is plant-animal balance. And I think basically this is everything that you need to know as a farmer. Okay, cycle of nutrients. What does that mean? As a farmer, you will be working on the soil. Everything that comes out of the soil goes back to the soil. So the nutrient cycle. That's it. So all the material, all the nutrients, all the elements, they are kept in a loop, so they don't escape the loop. Okay. Second is plant-animal balance. What does this mean? It means that in a certain given area of land, there is always a good ratio of animal and plants that can live together. And that optimum ratio has to be maintained. As long as you maintain that ratio, the soil will get better and better and better. Why? Because that's the way nature is designed. And because we break this balance, our soil is being degraded. Farming will corrupt as soon as you break this balance, or even the cycle. So the cycle and the balance, if you break it, you'll break the soil, and your farming will be corrupt, and you will not be able to survive a crisis. You will not be able to do a survival farming. Okay, let me explain further. This is cycle of nutrients. This is it. This triangle is everything, okay? So food comes out of the soil, and all food will be transformed into poop, and poop will go back to the soil, and that's it. This triangle is so easy, but it is powerful enough to destroy the whole modern agriculture. Because our modern agriculture, conventional chemical agriculture, is based on breaking this loop so that the soil will produce food and food will produce poop, but the poop will go into the oceans and rivers and never go back to soil. And then because the soil needs nutrients, they will now sell fertilizers to you, okay? So this simple triangle is powerful enough to change the whole agriculture. Second, plant-animal balance. This is it. This triangle is it. So plants come out of the soil, animals eat the plants, or animals eat the animals that ate the plants. And all the animal products, animal poop, animal dead body, they go back to the soil. And the cycle repeats. So you see, basically I'm talking about balance here, but it is also talking about cycle. So I said it's the same thing, one thing. And if you look at this carefully, I said there is a balance. So there's a ratio, there's a optimum ratio that should exist between the plants and animals. For example, if the plant element becomes too big, right? There's too many plants. What does that mean? Too much plants means too much photosynthesis, too much organic matter that's being produced, and too little decomposition, too little breakdown that is happening. Because the buildup is done by plants, the breakdown is done by the animals, okay? So if you have too much plants, but you don't have the animals, and you have too much of the undecomposed organic matter that does not turn into plant food, okay? So what if you have too much animals? If you have too much animals, you have too little photosynthesis and you have too much decomposition. That's also not a balance. In that situation, all the organic matter will be depleted and the land cannot be sustained. Then you will understand what I'm talking about. If you try to grow plants only, as is the case in the modern conventional agriculture, if you grow plants only and you forget the animal factor, you have to buy fertilizer. And if you grow animals separately, like livestock industry, and you forget the plant factor, then you have to buy animal feed, okay? And then the whole loop is broken and your farming is detached from the soil. It's something that you're doing out of the air, you know, you're just buying things from outside and then all your soil is doing is just supporting the plants to stand up, basically. So these are, it's not my invention or anything. This is like the law of nature. And these are the laws that any successful agricultural civilization have been following. Any civilization that break this, they always will disappear in history because their farming cannot be sustainable. Okay, this is the basic mechanism, the relationship between plants and animals. So if you have plants here, for example, you have a plant here, and then you have an animal. You can say mycorrhiza. Okay, mycorrhiza. The plant will provide mycorrhiza with the carbon, like the organic matter, and then the mycorrhiza will dig the minerals out of the soil and feed it to the plants. This applies to everything. Like you can, in the plants, you can put algae, and in animals, you can put fungi. And then that's lichen. Lichens are like symbiosis of algae and fungi. So that can be applied. Or you can just put, you know, plants, you put like apples there, animals, you can put humans there. Same thing. Like you eat the plants and you provide poop back to the soil. So that's the same thing. So this is the universal mechanism of nature. And this is something that farming has to use, something that we forgot. The most common sense that we forgot. So soil builds life. Yeah, the life comes out of the soil, yes. But even more important is that life builds soil. Soil is not built without life. So if you don't have the animal and plant on your soil, if you don't have the animal plant balance on your soil will be degraded. So coming into more details now. So based on these two principles, how should we farm in the COVID era? Or I would like to say, not even the COVID era, this is how farming should be all the time, in all cultures, all civilizations. This is the universal law. So the methods based on universal law should be that much significant. So firstly, of course, you grow the plants and animals together. And when you grow plants and animals together, be mindful of the ratio, the balance between the plants and animals. Second is poop in the loop. Okay, so all the animal livestock manure you have to bring back to the soil, plus everything that comes out from humans, they also have to go back to the soil. And the greener the better. This is not just good sounding thing. It is a profound truth. The greener the better means that the longer your land is left covered in green, the better the soil. Okay. So if you have harvested and you empty the field, don't leave it just bare. Plant some cover crops. Okay, they grow in the winter, and then they will make the soil better. Okay, always make it green, and that's better. If you cannot do it, if you cannot have cover crops, second best option is cover it with mulch, cover it with organic matter. Organic matter, dead plants are not green, they're brown, but still, at least give it some organic matter and it's good for the soil. But the best one, always the best one, is keep it green and the soil will get better. And the mushroom is a very good element to incorporate into farming because basically you don't need the sunlight. They don't compete for sun like other crops. They actually need shade, and they turn wood into food. So even the oyster mushrooms, they turn straw into food, sawdust into food. So they are excellent input for your farming. And fermentation is the technology, the technique that farmers have to learn. Fermentation is useful in so many ways, like from creating your own farming inputs, brewing your own microbes, to preserving foods and creating better, more nutritious foods. It is useful in so many ways that fermentation is something that farmers have to learn. And lastly, I would like to stress that while you focus on your farm, you try to connect the farm with the forest. So I'm talking about forest and farm synergy. You create a symbiosis where the forest and the farm help each other. Nature and civilization help each other. Okay, they are not mutually exclusive or competitive or hostile as it is now, but they help each other. Okay, I'll talk about this a bit more later. See, this is how nature always is and how farming also should be, where plants and animals live together. Okay, don't try to separate them. And this is the straw bedding from animal housing. So all these high carbon material is being mixed in with this high nitrogen material, creating the perfect compost. You know, one thing about compost that I'd like to mention is if you look at any kind of organic gardening manual, organic farming books, all of them talk about compost, all of them, you know, they will talk about carbon to nitrogen ratio, how to aerate, you know, how high to pile up, the temperature that's required and everything. It's very complicated. And I think it can be useful, but it's too complicated. And the reason, you know, the reason why composting has become like the golden method of organic farming is because people forgot that composting should be done by animals. Yeah, animals eat and they compost inside their belly, and then they create compost. That's compost. Because you don't have animals, you bring in all this plant matter, and because they don't break down so fast, you have to aerate it, you have to get the right moisture level, and you have to shade it. All those kind of things. Why do you have to put in that extra labor? Because we forgot that animals are a crucial part of farming. It's a joke, you know, it's a joke. So don't do all that turning unless you have a super powerful back. I don't have a strong back, so reduce your workload. Make nature should do all the work, supposed to do all the work, you know. You're not all too powerful. Humans are not all too strong. Don't try to do everything. So composting, that's what my view on composting. This is horse manure. See, this is from Dollar's farm. See, this is like perfect compost. Why do you need to break your back turning all that compost pile? This is perfect. And this is greener the better. So this is cover crop, rye, winter rye growing on the field. This is pastel-leaf farm in Korea. So rye, you can use it for multi-purposes. You can grow them. They will fertilize the soil while they are growing, and then you can till them in. They still fertilize the soil, or you can cut them in the spring and they make excellent forage for your animals. You feed your animals. Or you can let them go to seed and you will have cereal rye for your food. And mushrooms, of course, you incorporate mushroom. This is oyster mushroom that I grew. And this is actually the spawn, the mushroom spawn that I propagated. It's very easy. You just you buy the spawn and then you buy it once, and then you just continue to propagate it yourself, and you have infinite supply of mushroom spawn. You just take this, inoculate it into the wood, and you have your mushroom food. And this is a picture from Chris Durnay. He told me a lot about the EM and the fermented liquids, and I learned a lot. So this is pretty hardcore. You see, you have some deer leg in it, and fruits, berries, everything in it, even deer skin. I actually really like this kind of method. You know, you're brewing all these things together, creating a powerful fermented liquid. I think this is much better than the store-bought EMs. It's my personal view, because I will show you the microscope picture of the EM that I bought. You can actually see the number of microbes in there and the whole, compare it with the home brewed ones. All this is fermentation. Like you can see the power of the mycelium. This is also fermentation. This is a SCOBY that was formed in a liquid ferment that I made. This is from blueberry, very good SCOBY. So this is store-bought kefir. Okay, store-bought kefir. Everybody talking about probiotics. I think this is full of beneficial germs and you drink it, but actually there's not much germs if you look into the microscope. Maybe there's some more in other parts that I did not pick up, but the drop that I chose, very few. Store-bought kombucha, very few microbes. This one is a store-bought EM. So EM is a big thing. I mean, I really appreciate the contribution of EM. I like the idea. And I appreciate the work Dr. Higa is doing, but I don't know. This product I bought, I looked into microscope, so few microbes. These cannot go into the soil and do anything. They will be just devoured by the wild microorganisms. Okay, this one is home brewed kombucha. So this is what I made. And you can see already that powerful, vigorous propagation of the yeast. And this one is also a ferment that I made out of beans. I fermented beans into liquid. So, I mean, you don't have to buy it. You see, you don't have to buy, you make it, it's even better, right? And how to make it is easy. I cannot explain that now, but in the future I will. So you just make it, you use your own homemade fermented inputs for your soil, for your animals, for your drink. It's even better for you, higher quality. So if you are using microbes, use the indigenous ones. Don't use the imported ones. Use the wild ones. Don't use the manufactured. Don't use the lab-produced ones. Don't use the commercial ones. Use them in a composite manner, like you group them into a community. You have so many different types of microbes that you don't even know how many there are, instead of using selected microbes. Like you look at the bottle and it says 1, 2, 3 microbes in there, okay? So this is the approach that I suggest in farming. Actually, not just farming, but even in health. If you're into probiotics, same thing. And this is a very important part that I would like to explain now. Use the last drop. This is the maximum, the most thorough utilization of resources. It's very important attitude that we have in the future, especially if you are not gonna buy everything. And if you don't have the money to buy everything, you use the most of what you have. So what am I talking about? Okay. Actually, before I go in, I wanna give credit to EPWT. They are empowering the poor through waste transformation. I think they are based in Vietnam. And my friend Peter Jackson, he linked me to them. So I got to learn about what they were doing. And it really, really helped me open my eyes. And I hope it helps open your eyes when you realize what I'm talking about. Okay, what does it mean? Food for the humans, of course. You have food, the humans eat it. Like you grow your crops, the best part of the crops, they are for the humans, right? Humans eat the best ones. So what do we give the animals? Inedibles, like the hay, the straw, the skin, the bark, the husk, the bran, those things that we don't eat, we give it to the animals. Like the ones that are spoiled, that are unmarketable, those things go to the animals. Or the food waste, they go to the animals, okay? You don't give human food to animals. That's a sin, that's a bad thing to do. It's morally incorrect. You don't feed animals food that people in other part of the world are starving to death because they cannot eat it, okay? You give inedibles to animals. That's a rule. And then you give poop to the maggots, okay? You have to listen very carefully. So the humans will produce poop, the animals, they will produce poop. And then the poop will be used to grow maggots. And then the maggots have like many, many uses. I understand the black soldier fly is a big thing now, but if you're not ready to go into that, you can just use regular flies, you know? Those insects that we call nuisance, you just use them because they will produce a lot of maggots, and maggots You can feed it to your chickens, you can feed it to your fish, you can feed your animals with maggots. And if you're really hardcore, you can try the maggots. I haven't done it, but I might try. I'm pretty hardcore. Anyway, poop goes to maggots, okay? And then the maggots will produce their own poop. So insect poop. Insect poop is called frass. Frass goes to the worms, okay? And then the worms will produce worm poop. Worm poop is vermicast. And vermicast goes to the plants, okay? Now, after looking at this, can you realize what I'm talking about? You have to use your resources to the last drop. Every single step you have to take it and extract the resource out of it, extract the output out of it instead of just wasting it. For example, what do I mean by wasting it? If you give your food, like you have food, and you just compost it, and you give it to the plants, it's extremely inefficient use of resource, okay? And I know many people do vermicomposting, so they just give this food, they give food to the worms and let the worms break it down. It's not efficient enough. You give your food to your animals and let them produce poop, and then the poop produces maggots, and then you give it to the worms. You put in so much more multiple steps of productivity. Use the last drop of your resource. I hope you're getting the idea. I really, really like this idea. So I saw this roadkill one day, and like as a farmer, you see this kind of dead animal. You never just go by. You have to bring it. Yeah. So I brought it. What do you do with it? So the most inefficient way of using this would be just put it into compost pile. Okay. Put it into compost. Yeah, they will turn into compost. It'll take a long time, and very likely the maggots will come in anyway, unless you bury it. That is very inefficient. You have this kind of resource. What's the first thing you do? You feed it to the animals. Okay. And the animal produces poop. You feed it to the maggots. Maggots produce poop. You feed it to the worms. Worms produce poop, and then you feed it to the plants. It's much, much more productive. So the next picture will be gross, a lot of maggots. If you're not ready, don't look at it. Don't blame me, okay? So this is not the raccoon. This is a squirrel that I found and eventually turned into maggots. I wanted to feed my fish, so I intentionally invited maggots. But what I said before was maggots, poop is for the maggots, okay? So that animal should go to the animals, but I don't have any animal right now, so I couldn't feed it to an animal. For example, if you have chickens, you know, like you have chickens and you have dead mouse, you give it to them, they will just, you know, devour the whole mouse. They love meat. So anyway, I used this to produce maggots and then gave it to my fish. And this is very interesting. So you see, this is cow poop. And you can see these white dots, they are all maggots. And this verifies that maggots grow on poop. So this is how you utilize your resource. You grow your maggots first, and then you feed it to your chickens, and then you feed the remains to your worms, and then you give it to your plants. Worms. And this is a very, very good video that I found on YouTube. Her name is Marianne Wainaina. You can search poultry droppings as poultry food. So what she's doing is she's not just taking the chicken poop and feeding it to the chicken. It's like she takes the chicken poop, she moistens it, and then the maggots will be formed. And then she feeds the maggots to the chickens. So basically, it's a recycle, and extracting the most efficiency out of your limited resources. And in the future, I really suggest you be ready for a very limited resources situation. Basically, I'm saying this. So when the food turns into poop, you make so much efficient use out of the whole process that the arrow is not simple. You make so many different uses out of your resources, okay? This is bones that I brought from restaurants, like it's free. It's waste for them, so I help them remove their waste, and it's resource for my soil. Fermented bones, playing around with fermentation. Fermented bones. And of course, biochar. So I've been learning a lot about biochar, and I personally, I think better than the reverse coal method, like V-trench method is much better. I can explain why in the future sessions, but this is the method, that conclusion that I arrived is best for making biochar. You can see that the wood is very, very closely piled up together. That limits the oxygen flow, which promotes pyrolysis. And this is the biochar that I made, mixed into manure for composting. They're being charged. You can see the mycelium running all over. And of course, the worms come in. You can see the manure biochar mixture. And when I said grow something that's easy to grow, I think the best example would be sunchokes. So on the left, these are all sunchokes that I grow on my field. And on the left, you can see that that soil is like totally bare, zero fertility. That soil is just gravel because it has been dug out from the pond. Like we dug out the pond area, so has zero fertility. So I just planted sunchokes to see what happens, and look how they grow. They grow taller than me in that zero fertility soil. So easy to grow. Those are the food that you want to rely on, okay? Easy to grow. On the right is also sunchoke. You can see that sunchoke is in the shade. I also experimented. Like I put them in the shade on the trees and inside blackberry bushes. And you know, we all know that blackberries are notorious, but look how they survive inside the blackberries. I think that's the only food crop that can actually overcome blackberries. Very strong. Even in the shade, they're growing like that. Okay, so when you are doing farming, try to create a complete cosmos. What that means is cosmos as in the complete whole system. So you have the soil, plant, animal balance, you have everything, all the system together. Instead of trying to take a piece out of the system, take a piece out of the loop, and then you try to do that kind of farming. Okay, yeah, you try to take out the plant factor out of the loop and you do monocropping. Or you try to take out the animal out of the loop and you do livestock industry. Okay, animal factory farming. Those are not the farming of the future. They might be commercially successful, but I'm not talking about commercially successful. I'm talking about farming in crisis, farming for survival, or farming that respects nature, farming of the future, how farming should be. And as I mentioned in the beginning, this is organized by National Unification Advisory Council. So we are all about trying to promote peace and reunification on the Korean Peninsula, because North Korea and South Korea was divided against the people's will. It was like the superpowers coming into our country. We had wars, and our country remains divided, unlike Germany, which they reunited. So why do I talk about North Korea? Because North Korea is probably the best case of isolation, best case example of what isolation looks like. And when North Korea, they went into this very chemical dependent farming in the 50s, 60s, they relied heavily on chemical fertilizers. So that when the Soviet Union, they collapsed and were not able to give them any more fertilizers, their food supply started to drop. So they will face a serious, like severe famine in the late 90s and in the late 2000. That is because they created a farming system that is dependent upon chemicals. Okay, so if you give them like they will ask for chemical fertilizer aid because that's what they need to produce, because their soil is poisoned already. It cannot addicted already. It cannot produce without the chemicals. That's a very sad situation. So if you want to transform that kind of soil into a soil that can produce without chemicals, now that will take time and energy, and it's very difficult because the soil is already degraded, eroded, washed away, poisoned. It's not exactly the same as a drug addiction. You have to keep using it, and you have to use more and more. This is the kind of landscape they're living in North Korea. You see, they just destroy all the forest because they wanted to turn it into farm and produce food, okay? And then you do that. As soon as you do that, you will have now flood all over. Like every summer, there will have flood. Same amount of rain comes to South Korea and North Korea. Only North Korea will suffer from flood. So flood is not about how much rain it comes. Flood is about how much water the soil can accommodate, okay? Because the soil cannot absorb the water will wash away and then create flood, kill people, destroy farm fields. Drought is also about soil. Drought is not about how little the rain comes. Drought is about how much the soil is able to retain moisture, okay? So if the soil cannot retain moisture, you have drought. Which means if you go to an area with flood, you always have drought at the same time together. So drought, flood, famine, death. That's the kind of vicious cycle that they are trapped in. It's very difficult to get out. It's very difficult. And the farming that I'm trying to explain is what I believe should be utilized to remedy this kind of situation. And I'm not just talking about North Korea. I mean, North Korea is not the only country, that is doing bad or something. Everywhere we are doing very bad. We are destroying our soil so bad in many, many countries. We are turning farmland into deserts. That should be reversed. So the kind of farming that I want to promote, that I talk about, that I want to share, that I want us to develop together, is the kind of farming that can go to these kind of places, North Korea or Africa, deserts, other bare lands in Asia or Latin America, where the people are starving. They have no water. Again, no water is not a matter of little rain. It is a matter of soil. So we can teach them how to heal the soil and heal their livelihood and heal their communities. That's the kind of farming that we should do. That's the potential of farming that we should look into. Farming is not like take an element out of the loop. You think it's commercially good, try to make money. It's not a good approach. Making money is not bad, nothing bad, but breaking that whole system and degrading the soil is very bad. So this is the soil that I picked up in the village in the Philippines that I mentioned. So on the right side, the yellow soil is where they are growing food. On the left, the dark brown is the soil from the exact same place, but where they have not been growing food. Exact same place, but that brown soil comes from under a tree. Okay, this shows a lot. Our farming is basically turning brown soil into yellow soil. And what I'm suggesting is that we change, and our farming should be a farming that changes yellow soil into brown soil. Okay, just healing the soil itself will have so many significant impacts. They will start to produce food. It will start to stabilize the community. And people can live in security. Again, this is a triangle that I always emphasize. You have the environment. If you degrade your environment, if the forest is gone, then you're farming, you cannot do farming. The water is gone. And you have flood and drought all over. You cannot do farming. And then you have poverty, you have starvation, you have famine. Okay? And then because people are hungry, they again go to the environment, they cut down forest, they create more farm field, try to produce more food. And then actually trying to do more farming destroys the farming. And then the whole cycle repeats. We have to escape this cycle. So this is what I really would like to emphasize. Like when you are farming, you don't just farm on the land thinking that it is producing food for humans. You look at the farm as a part of the forest. It's part of the forest. It was a part of the forest. It's humans that cleared it. If you have cleared it, at least you have the responsibility to preserve the soil. Okay, you have the responsibility to not degrade the soil. You have the responsibility to maintain the plant-animal balance and sustain the soil fertility. Don't degrade soil. Forest is like, it's like a mother, it's a blessing. It gives so much to us, and we rarely give anything back. Forest is full of beneficial, powerful, indigenous, wild, composite microorganisms. You can bring it in anytime you want. You just go there, collect the leaves, bring them in, and they fertilize your soil. And all the powerful wild microorganisms, they come into your soil, they will suppress the pathogens in your farm field. And the forest will, together with the farm soil, it should act as a water reservoir. As long as the trees are standing, you have your water. You cut your trees, you lose your water. So forest is not just about timber products, it's about water. And water is about life. Here in British Columbia, we are pretty much blessed to have a very wide area of forest. But I do recognize that there's a lot of logging going on, a lot of logging. If you look at Google Map, look down into the forest of British Columbia, you will see many, 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 many dots that have been logged, just clear cut. And I'm not an expert in this, but I heard and read that they would, use herbicides to get rid of non-commercial trees, and then use chemical fertilizer to make the timber grow faster. So effectively, our poisonous farming is not limited to our croplands. We are doing it all over to the mountains and the forests. This is my farm, like my farm in Maple Ridge. Is my friend Rick Tundu's farm. I'm very fortunate because it's connected to the forest. So just go up the hill and it's forest, and I can bring any amount of leaf matter I want, and it just adds so much fertility, so much microbes, so much nutrients into my soil. It is a blessing that you cannot find anywhere else. If you don't have this kind of resource and you try to do farming, relying on chemical fertilizers, that's the path to going broke. Forest, there's a lot of edible plants and fruits. This is huckleberry. It's full of medicinal mushrooms and edible mushrooms. And the forest, they provide shelter for the beneficial insects. I actually don't like the word beneficial insect, harmful insect. I don't really like that good and bad distinction. but I use it for practical purposes. You know, I can ask you an interesting question. When we talk about good and bad, right? Good and bad is a very, very important. It's a big topic that we can discuss. I had this kid who, not my kid, just the kid that I knew. This kid, he's very bright. He always asks me, "Is this plant good or bad? Is this insect good or bad?" Always ask me all the time. So one day I asked him, "Hey, are humans good or bad?" So you think about that. Are we good or bad? You know, what I'm getting at is the good and bad lens is not very good for seeing the truth. Get rid of the lens, you see the truth. Okay. And of course, the forest is full of beneficial microorganisms. Look at this powerful fungus. You know, you bring in this kind of log. You know, hugel culture is a big thing. Instead of burying freshly cut logs, I prefer to bring in this kind of half-rotten logs and then bury it in the soil. I think it's much better. They're more spongy, and they got all these beneficial microbes already. So what can we do? So specifically, what can we do? If you have a farm, that's great. Grow your own food on your farm. If you don't have a farm, just a garden, still as good. Or you can go to a community garden, grow your own food. If you have a lawn, get rid of the grass, start growing food. Growing grass is, you know, one of the most wasteful thing to me, in my view. Why you grow grass there? You know, grow food. Or if you want to grow grass, feed it to the animals. Okay, and the animals, you can utilize your animals, right? If you don't have any space at all, you can try indoor gardening inside your house. My friend Jojo Rom from the Philippines is an expert in urban container gardening. Or if you don't even have space, you can go to your rooftops. Or another thing is you go to like all these vacant spaces in the city. There's a lot of vacant spaces where just weeds are growing, pretty much abandoned. You can group together and start growing food there. If you are worried about the regulations, you can contact your local government or counselors, tell them about what you're doing. You know, everybody would agree. You want to grow food in wasted space, and you know, everybody would agree. And then you can even suggest, you know, we'll do it in a community. So it's not just for my family, but the whole community can come together, grow food in the city abandoned spaces, and we can feed the whole community. Yeah, we give it out to the homeless people, help the poor, share it. You know, those kind of things, very good things to do, right? Or you can also bond with someone who has the land. So, like, you can create a community based on land, so that you produce food together. You give your contribution, you give your work or your labor or knowledge, talent, whatever, you give your contribution, and then the other guy has the land. So you are able to produce food together. And then it'll be not just about producing food, but it'll be about building communities. And that is actually another very important topic. Like community is another very important topic that we should address. So this is an example that I really like to mention. She is Lisa from the Philippines. Very, very poor fishing village, okay? But she managed to grow all this food behind. You can see all the green? All the green before, it didn't used to not exist. It was not green, it was just sand. It's the beach side, very infertile soil. And her children were malnourished. But she started to do gardening. And she did not buy seeds, buy fertilizer, buy pesticide, buy machines to till it. No, that's not how she did it. She just did it by very, very easy and little labor and common sense methods. She simply followed the laws of nature, and then she has productivity. Okay. So she's now producing cassava, coconuts, squash, tomatoes, and previously malnourished children, they are now nourished because the Catholic Church comes out and they do all the measurements on their body, and they found out that the children are now healthy. So she's producing her own food like that. So you should not say, oh, I don't have the money to farm. Okay, farming was never meant to be, and should not be just for the people with money. Okay, this is my sister in Philippines, Mindanao. She's Luz, the New York, and she is actually, teaching fish farming without fee. Okay, you farm fish, but you don't buy any feed at all. Zero cost fish farming. So you grow your own fish, you have your food, but all the feed that you give them is the naturally grown algae that you can see here. See, so the whole skill is about how to make this algae bloom instead of buying this fish feed made from corns from America. You see, this is a different kind of approach that we need. This is an excellent example. See, you have your fish farm, no money goes in at all, but you have food for the table. This is Jojo Rom that I mentioned, expert in container gardening. So even if you have limited space, you can do it. And you can utilize all the wasted containers, the plastics, everything that contaminates earth, you can reuse it, make it into food growing boxes. And this is from aqsolutions.org. This guy is showing us how to filter water. So I believe knowledge to filter water could be also very useful. And basically using a lot of charcoal and fine sand. And they tested in the lab, and it came out that this system can even filter out pesticides and herbicides. So that's pretty remarkable. So everybody, talking about smart farm, integrating artificial intelligence, integrating information technology, integrating all these computers, sensors, machines, and creating smart farms. I know that that's the new trend now, but I don't really buy into it. Smart farm, I mean, if you can invest, do smart farm, make money, it's good for you. But smart farm is not for the people. Normal people, they don't have the knowledge. Yeah, they don't know IT, they don't know AI, they cannot build computer moderated sensors to control the moisture levels, sunlight. It's too expensive. Instead of being all crazy about this, oh, this is a new technology, I want to actually stress the importance of old technology, people's technology, easy technology. So instead of smart farm, what we can do is build strong farms, which are independent of all these outside inputs, outside products, outside knowledge. But you can do it yourself. The people can do it by themselves. So this is from the book Farmers of 40 Centuries by Franklin Hiram King. So he's visited Korea, Japan, and China about 100 years ago, studied traditional agriculture, and he was like blown away. Oh, how can this kind of farming exist? That was his impression. He was so impressed with Northeast Asian farming, he wrote a book. In Shantung province, China, this is what he has written. Okay, 12 people in his family, 1 donkey, 1 cow, both exclusively laboring animals, and 2 pigs. on 2.5 acres. He grew wheat, millet, sweet potatoes, and beans. 2.5 acres, 12 people, okay? That's about, 10 acres will support 60 people, 6 donkeys and 6 pigs. How is that for a smart farm? Can you get any smarter than this? This is like the highest productivity that you can get out of a land. And the higher productivity that you reach and sustain, the better you're doing for the environment. It's not like you're extracting, exploiting it. This system will go on for years and years and years, and the soil will get even better and better and better. What is smarter than this, right? So this is the kind of farming that I'd like to suggest. And it's not about just purely going back to the past. We have a lot of science. We have a lot of modern knowledge. We can incorporate that. But we are always mindful of the laws of nature and our objective, be humble. Don't try to exploit and destroy nature. Try to harmonize. And this is me doing Tai Chi in the mountains. So food security is one thing, very important, yep. You are able to produce your own food, and producing your own food on good soil means medicinal quality food that can heal you, okay? Another very important thing is food security, along with food security, health security, right? Health security. You have to be able to take care of your own health and your family's health. So many people are sick because they eat poison food, they drink poison water, and they live a poison lifestyle. So I really want to take this step further, not just about food, but about health. You take care of your own health. You do like cultivations. You go into the traditional wisdoms, yoga or meditations, Tai Chi, they're all good. Or just the exercise, good. Be mindful of how you take care of your body so that you don't have to live a life that is dependent on drugs and pills. Just living on medication, that is so miserable. Let's change that. Let's get out of that. I understand many people nowadays, they are saying, when are we gonna go back to the normal? When are we gonna, when is the normal gonna be restored? And they sort of miss the old days. If you ask me, I don't miss the old days. The old days was still too corrupt, What we have been doing is not good enough. I want us to do better. We have, in the past, we have doing, is profiting from wars, filling the ocean with plastic, radiation in the Fukushima, clearing the forest, turning them into soy fields, and then feeding the animals, and then selling it, making money. More than 70% of insects have disappeared compared to 30 years ago. Not 70% left, 70% disappeared because humans have been spraying insecticide all over the world. That's the past that we're talking about. The rich and poor divide. That's the past we're talking about. I think we can do better. So if you ask me, when are we gonna go back to the normal? I say, the past was not normal. We have to create a new normal. So we're gonna move forward. We're not gonna be stuck at this crisis state. All this COVID madness going on, imposing all sorts of restrictions. They are trying to create the new days. I showed you earlier, they're trying to create the new days. But I'm saying we have to create the new days, and we can create it. Isolation to connection. So you see the farms, you see how they have been effectively isolated from the forest. You see how your agricultural system, they have been effectively isolated from the natural law, the cycle of nutrients and the plant-animal balance. You see, isolation is not just about quarantine in the COVID days, it's everywhere. And we have to reconnect that. Connect the farm to the forest. Connect the humans back to nature. Human to human isolation. We have always been isolated, you know. It's not just COVID that's isolating us. It's the COVID whole situation, the powerful people, the rich people, they want to maximize this sense of isolation. But if you look back, we have always been isolated, right? We have not been living in communities. We have to learn to live in communities. And what about the isolation from oneself? You are isolated from yourself. You are detached. Your spirit is just wandering away, and you're living this life full of ego, lost in direction. That's another isolation. All these different levels of isolation have to reconnect. It's not just about COVID isolation. So we are living in a time of chaos, a lot of things unpredictable, uncertain. But the more uncertain it is, the more room for creativity, okay? We cannot create the future when the whole system is in order, you know? Everything is so fixed. There's so little room to maneuver. But in this kind of time of crisis and chaos, there's a lot of room to move around. So this is a time of opportunity. The window of opportunity is open, and we have to act now, or we will become losers or victims of history again. And then the old order will repeat in an aggravated form, claiming to be the new days. So let's empower ourselves, connect with the land, go back to harmony with nature, start producing your own food. Like if you don't have land, find someone with land, create a community. Form a resilient, strong community that is sovereign in itself. Okay, all this community, I learned a lot from Bob, my new friend in the growth project. And it is really about the human sovereignty, the community sovereignty. It is about being the owner of our own selves instead of being slaves or being victims or being used, exploited. So connect with the people, form these communities. If you are alone, you cannot be more vulnerable. You will be so vulnerable, like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of those people who come out trying to speak the truth. But if you're in a group, at least you're safer than an individual, okay? And learning to live together, suppressing your ego, and accepting, respecting others, this is a virtue that we have to recover. And third is connect with your own self. So I'm talking about spirituality. I'm talking about cultivating your own self to become a better human. All these three things have to go together. It's not like, oh, I will just farm and be food self-sufficient. It's not like that. If you don't do this all together, ultimately you'll crash. You have to do it all together. You cannot take care of the land unless you're able to take care of yourself. You cannot heal others unless you're healed. Okay, so it starts from myself. So as far as the system goes, a lot of the system is crazy. It's oppressive, it's exploitive. You don't have to fight it. Just say goodbye. Kiss it goodbye and create your own system, right? Go to your land, go to your people, build your own system, and live a sovereign life. And it's perfectly legal. There's nothing wrong about it. You're not breaking law. It's even legal in their system. Yeah. But you're being the creator. You're being the sovereign. Okay, so that's about conclusion. I will share my book with you guys. So if you open your chat, I will upload the file over there. And I am right now, I have a Facebook group called HESA, Heal the Soil and the Soul Alliance. What I want to do is bring all the knowledges together, like the knowledge for the people come together, we share. So this, what I want this group to be is not just about farming, but also about health, well-being, spirituality, about community, about being better person. Everything can come in. Medicine, indigenous knowledge, culture, everything can come in. So this is a Facebook group that I want everybody to benefit. They can come, share what they have, and take what there is. All right. And I'm right now also involved in the growth project that I mentioned about growing food, about building communities. All these are very good efforts that I am involved in, I'm engaged in for these new days, and that I suggest the same to you guys. And yeah, this is my suggestion. So about the fear and feeling powerless, being isolated, have no fear. Let's be empowered. Connect everything again, and we will be so powerful that they'll be surprised. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. That was awesome. That was awesome. Thank you very much. Fantastic talk.
Yeah, turn on your video so we can see each other. And any questions, comments, whatever. Come into the chat, actually. I want to upload the file.
Hey, Ray, I would just like to mention that for this to be your first English talk or presentation in English, it blew me away. It's fantastic. It was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my English is pretty good. Yeah.
So clear, so grounded. It was awesome. Thanks.
Thank you. Hang on, I don't know how to attach the file. Hang on. Chat.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Such a wonderful, informative lecture. The two laws are quite a fundamental way to keep our Earth more effective and sustainable. Could you comment on the finding farm funding by government? If we can find.
Sorry, it's very difficult to hear. Can you repeat the question part? I'm very sorry.
Can you hear me?
It's very small.
All right.
Can you speak up a bit? Sorry.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I can hear her very well.
All right. I really appreciate it. It's such a wonderful, informative lecture. It was a very wonderful opportunity to learn about smart farming. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. The two laws you mentioned that are quite fundamental way to keep our Earth more effective and sustainable. So it was quite impressive. If you don't mind, could you comment on the finding farm funding program by government? Can you hear me?
Oh, farm funding by government?
Yes.
I don't think the government is directly doing it, but there is a non-profit trying to connect the people to farms.
Yes.
Like the young agrarians in BC, and there's also they're trying to identify landowners who want farmers on their land because they are not farming themselves. Mm-hmm. And then there's also the farmers who don't have the land, that need the land. So it's a mutually win-win situation. And yes, I think the government actually funds that kind of organization. So partly the government is helping. So those are some of the things that you can do. So if you don't have land, there's a lot of channels that you can go through to connect with the land.
Yes.
and organizations or nonprofits or government channels, or you can just go up to the landowner and say, hey, how do I look as a farmer? And,
That's awesome. So
okay, any others?
thank you.
Yes. Joe?
Hey, Ray.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I want to share with you that I feel like I received a personal message from you and the challenge to connect with my community. To be honest, I've been super happier than ever since this COVID hit. We moved onto our farm. We've been living on our farm away from society with our animals. But I also realized that I've been selfish in that same regard, where I have not been sharing the Ike or the knowledge of what we're doing. I have making this opportunity available to others in my community. While we're quite active in sharing the produce and the things that we grow, that's the end product, the whole experience of being with the animals, having hands and feet in the soil and connecting to the earth, to nature in that regard is something that I can say right now that I have not been sharing with other people. And that is something that I have really enjoyed for myself. So thank you for sharing about the importance of us forming a resilient and strong community and not being alone and learning to live together. I know for myself, that's what I'm going to have to learn to do, is learn to be around other people. So thank you for that challenge. I want to ask you one question though, if you could. I really enjoyed your book. However, I tried to sit down and read it all at one time, and it was difficult for me because I like the way you wrote it, with each chapter almost being its own story. But after every story, I had so many ideas, so many things that I would like to discuss with other people. 2 stories so far, and already I'm still trying in my mind trying to delve into it further. Would it be possible for you to have, just like how you did today, have everyone read a story? We come back together with you on Zoom and we talk about what that story means. We flush out some of the ideas and how it's connected to this larger goal, this larger mission we're on. I think that would be a great way to help us continue the momentum that you started today, but also help us find a way to consistently build community with the people that are on this presentation now. If you're okay, I would like to hear from you if that is something you'd be open to, and maybe talk a little bit more about your book and the stories that you have.
Yeah, actually, not just talk about my book, but I think this kind of gathering itself is very meaningful. And like, I have my friends from all over, and you guys can become friends all together. And that itself is a powerful community, right? So talking about book is no problem, but we can try to have this kind of get together in the future on whatever topic, the book or farming, or I'm sure a lot of you guys have a lot of things to share too, because for others that don't know, Joe McGinn is from Hawaii. He's like super experienced farmer. He's knowledgeable in natural farming. And what he's saying is that he would like to share more about his knowledge realizes the importance of sharing it more than before in this kind of times. And I think that's very good. Like, instead of just having the knowledge for ourselves, like I use the Facebook to show people what I'm doing and share it out. And yeah, that's good. And one thing, interesting is, Joe McGinn is from Hawaii. And I've been to Hawaii many times. You know how we are all wearing masks now, and we have this mask to try to cut our breath from contaminating other people and try to protect us from other people's breath, right? But in Hawaii, I was so touched about how they greet each other. Yeah, they would touch the forehead, and forehead would touch, and they would breathe in and out together, share the breath. That's their greeting. It's so beautiful, So they take out the mask and they just share the breath. Oh man, that's I really loved it.
Yes, we share the same air. We share the same soil. We should be sharing the same food with each other.
Yes.
So thank you. I really appreciate your time and your talk this morning, Ray. Look forward to meeting everyone and seeing everyone and continuing this momentum that you started for us today. Thank you, Ray.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Anyone else?
Hi, Ray. Nice to see you.
Hey, long time.
Connecting again
Yeah.
and again. So keep up the good work. See you around, and please keep me in the loop. Keep connected. Stay connected.
I can't hear you.
Oh, wow. This is as loud as this thing gets. Anyway, I'll chat.
Okay. All right. Okay, so
Ray, can you hear me?
yes, yes.
This is Hila from the Creative Conscious community. Thank you so much. Wonderful, wonderful presentation. Valuable, valuable material. Let's spread it to every and any community we know and can outreach, because this is our future. This is the new future, and we're creating the new creative future. Forget about ditch the word normal. We don't give a about normal. We are creative human beings, and we came to this planet this time around to turn this ship around.
Yeah.
This earth ship around. So thank you so much. And I love the way you weave practicality and spirituality and all the systems. It's a one system, and everything is related. And that's where consciousness is at play. So much appreciation. And I look forward to work with you on the farm and to hear what's your plans are.
Great. Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm also looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too.
Hi, Ray.
Thank you very much again. Thank you.
Hey, Bob, how are you?
Hi, everybody. Hey, Ray. I'm actually quite speechless. I've been listening and watching very carefully. And so we have the Growth Project here in British Columbia. And I met Ray. He was, I guess he was guided to me and I was guided to him. And when I met him, I had probably about an hour or maybe 2-hour conversation. And right then I knew that this was the person that we needed for our project, because his vision, our vision, is completely in alignment of bringing community together, bringing people together. And we're creating teams on land. As we see systems implode in society, we're building a team for it. So whatever you see in society, we're going to have a team for it. And what Ray brings to this team is amazing. You know, it really does synergize everything in terms of who we are, in terms of the land, in terms of our community, in terms of this planet, and bring all that together. So I'm very honored to have Ray on board. It's such a blessing for what we can produce together. And I think that this is the start of something really, really beautiful and very powerful. So as Ray said, you know, what I always say to everybody is similar to what Ray says is, you know, they're going this way, we're going this way. Okay, it doesn't matter what happens. You know, we have the ability to create whatever we want, and it doesn't have to be expensive. Everything is available for us. The only thing that's missing is that we need to work together, because we've been separated for so long. And so this is now inspiring us and motivating us to come together. And that's something we will have to learn. That's something where we will have to put our ego aside, and we'll have to think about what can we contribute. Not what can we get first, what can we contribute? Once we contribute to our community, the community will give us whatever we want. And that's a very, very important shift in perspective that has to happen. So I don't want to take too much time, but I want to thank everybody for coming. It's just amazing presentation, Ray. Well done, brother. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Actually, Bob is the guy who reminded me of the importance of community and like sovereignty of ourselves more than anyone else. So I appreciate that. Okay, so any more questions or comments?
Thank you very much for your hard working, for a great lecture, and then those who are here. It is just amazing and wonderful. Thank you so much. If we get a chance to say hello to you personally, then I love to meet you guys. Thank you so much. It was awesome. Thank you.
I'm having trouble.
Weekend as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. I'm having trouble attaching the file in the chat. My book. I will write my email, so you can send me an email and I'll send you the book. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So take note of. Okay, take note of the email.
Let's give him a big applause for Ray Yin. Thank you all of you as well.
May I add a piece to the puzzle here, if I may?
Actually, I attached the file. You can download it. Okay. Oh, file is blocked for security reasons. Don't worry. Send me the email. Yes, someone was saying. Yes.
May I add something to this conversation
yes,
for a moment? Yes.
Yes, please.
So Ray, what your presentation was, it was absolutely beautiful. I loved every bit of it and share your feelings about it. One thing that I'd like to see us work on is that while poor people can access land in the ways you've described, a poor person going to somebody who has land and farming on their land, it leaves them in sort of a slave master position to some extent, in that the person who owns the land can say, oh, now you must leave now. And it saddens me. And it takes a long time to build up great soil. And so my focus for a very long time, because I've shared this desire for farming in this way, is finding ways to bring access to land to people who ordinarily wouldn't have the funds to have a right to be on the land and to farm it without somebody else's benevolence. And so I'd like to, over time, maybe if we have more meetings, share ideas as to how we can accomplish that for all your brilliant consideration and critique.
Yeah. That's a difficult question and quite realistic question, especially we live in a world of private ownership of land. So actually the landlord has to be respected in the ownership. So, but if that develops into that kind of slave master kind of mentality, that's not healthy. So, yes. I think we are trying to build a community, and if the landlord is that kind of person, it's not even worth trying to work together. So either way, it doesn't matter, right?
Well, what matters is to be able to have poor people not to be that slave sort of situation, but to empower the poor people to have land. And that's what I'd like to add to this conversation over time.
Yeah. Having land, but will you buy it or lease it, or just work together, partner it? There's a lot of different opening a whole new chapter. So let's talk about it later.
That's exactly what I'm hoping we'll do.
Okay, Peter, say hi. Peter Jackson.
Hi, Ray. What's going on?
Good to see you, man. Okay, anybody else?
Yeah, Ray, it's Musa. I'm thankful for you bringing the picture in that the whole system is synergetic with the sense that we human beings have one place in the whole scope of the balance of nature.
So for me, it's beautiful to see how we are part of that whole cycle. It's not just a food cycle, but it's a life cycle. And to be able to do all the things that you're looking into, curious about, wanting to experiment with. And I look forward to getting into the poop with you on the land through the project. And thank you for this wonderful presentation.
Yep. Thank you, Musa. Peter, were you going to say something?
Oh, no, not really. I mean, I'm just on the same page of like, what if the collapse happens? And I'm coming from, somewhat of a anarcho-primitivist perspective of like, basically like the essence of nature farming should be me. I should probably never import a single thing. Like, even though I love like eating the FPJs and FFJs, I don't think I'm going to use those in my garden next year because food prices are going up because of all this bullshit. And so basically, like, I love all the nature farming and the nature farmers because it's one of the best hopes we have against the technocratic takeover, and the technocracy is really taken over. Like, and in the last 7 months, they created a real stranglehold of control. And so it's like, how do we achieve food sovereignty, liberation of all the peoples from just, the bullshit? Like, how do we get them back to real functioning, like aware of like, we're alive on a beautiful spaceship. And how do we be stewards? How do we, get away from just basically like the planned obsolescence? Because like people won't think that, oh, I'm just gonna go to Mars. I'm gonna dick ride on all these billionaires, and these billionaires the billionaires are gonna save us, So, yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah. Peter is from Washington. He's also very knowledgeable in EM, natural farming, bokashi fermentation. He's like an encyclopedia if you talk to him. I enjoy working together with him a few times. All right, so if there's any more, if there isn't any more,
I just want to say thank you very much, all of you, and taking your precious time, at the same time providing or sharing your thoughtful or very precious ideas with us. It is very honorable and very privileged for me as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it. Hoping you have a wonderful weekend and see you soon.
Take care, everybody. Breathe well.
Please give him a big plus to Ray Yoon and all of us. Thank you all. Peter Jackson.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Blessings and gratitude to everybody.
All right, thank you to all of you. Thank you so much.